Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. The message was clear. It is time. Time to meet upon this sacred mountain, to share what we hear, feel, and see. Time to bring the wisdom of the divine to a world that is yearning for its guidance. Through OracleFest, we've created a movement of community, all yearning to empower their own inner oracle. And here in Oracle Mountain Chats, we bring that spirit into a more intimate space. This is where the oracles gather to reflect, exchange ideas, and to explore what wishes to come through in the moment. This mountain is more than stone and sky. It is a meeting place of the realms, a threshold between seen and unseen, known and unknown. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present. Okay, here we find ourselves actually mid-giggle again. I feel like this happens a lot on Oracle Mountain because I'm joined with Nick Kellett from Deckible and Deckible.com and Deckible, the app, if you're also curious and wanting to go look that up, which we'll talk about that in a second. But what I notice often on Oracle Mountain here is that we get people who are insightful together, and all the insights start coming to us just from meeting, just from being present with each other in the moment, receiving what each other has to say, and kind of this ping pong, this telepathic psychic ping pong starts going on. And I always feel like I'm interrupting mid-game to say, okay, wait, let's start the recording. So welcome, Nick, to Oracle Mountain.
Thank you. That's great. It's good to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. There is so much synergy in what you're doing with Deckible and what we're doing over with OracleFest, bringing some new things out to the world. And so we were kind of just actually having a laugh about, I think in some kind of way, just about all these different ideas that are going on in the world and how we're going to be a part of it. And how do we make it make sense to others, and how do we break it down in a way that everyone can understand and have a piece of this wellness or spiritual healing or growth work that comes through these tools.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating space. It's so it feels like it's really evolved so much. I've been, I guess, been probably 6 years now, 5 or 6 years since I've been fully engrossed in this space. And before I got into cards per se and the whole thing, right? My history is board games. Like I'm a technologist, right? So I invent things for a living, but I've always had a passion to create games. I play a lot of games. So cardboard has been this thing that I've always played with, right? And I got into computers as just, oh, this is a cooler way to do, the cardboard stuff, right? And I published a board game. I play a lot of games, and then I didn't even notice how many card decks there were. But I got into a bit of a kind of personal growth phase and started buying decks, and that was a dangerous. That's like
Yeah.
pulling a piece of string; it just keeps coming, right?
That
Every time you
first
think,
deck
oh,
is a
this is
gateway to 50 other
right.
things.
Oh, we got a gateway. We're coming back to that word. We're going to
Okay.
talk We're going to talk gateway
Okay.
in a minute, right? But I got into this space and I just was like, I kept buying one more deck. Well, I don't know how I've lost count. I don't even count them. I don't want to count them. You can see I have boxes of them. I'm just curious about it. And I was mostly curious about just how wide it is, right? There literally is a deck for everything, right? But nobody realizes that. Honestly, the biggest thing I've learned with Deckible is people fully expect there to be a book for everything
Yeah.
because we're so far down the path of Amazon. We're 20 plus years into Amazon and Kindle and Audible. And decks, they're like, oh, and yet they pick up a deck for X and a deck for Y and they think, okay, they just haven't realized there are decks for everything, right?
Mhm.
And 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 there's just so much societal change around why this is important, right? So, mental wellness, personal growth, COVID threw a kind of, a kind of toss into the mix that I screw up that and make it okay to talk about being in a mess, right? And talk about struggle and talk about emotions and feelings and dealing with that,
What a
right?
sweet side effect of a global pandemic.
Yeah. I
You
think it was a
know,
little bit, there
but
were
it's
better
nice.
ways to do that, but it
Yeah,
was
it
an
would be nicer to
expensive,
have a different delivery system,
yeah, yeah,
right?
right.
Like smoother. But
But
that was something that people could glean is that they could actually say, hey, life ain't feeling good for me right now. Same with
right,
a lot of people. And yeah, there's a bonding maybe that happens even in being able to share that.
right. And so that's, I guess, a good thing. But the problem is I think everyone's collective wellness has gone down as a consequence of that,
Absolutely.
right?
Well, yeah,
And
we're
so
not
that
meant to
so
be
that
isolated that
in
way.
in in some weird way that gives you more momentum to find the tools to get out of that, right?
Mhm.
People don't change unless they're like, this is really, I'm hurting too much to carry on. If it's
Yes.
just kind of mediocre pain, we put up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, we
But
adapt. We adapt, humans are
so
powerfully adaptable, but sometimes we
we
mask.
are honestly, it's all that science. You give someone, right? If you win a lottery ticket, so you've suddenly got 5 million that you didn't have 2 weeks ago, and you'll be incredibly grateful for about a month.
Yeah.
And then you start to justify, well, I
Sometimes.
deserved all this, right? Equally, I could take money away from you, or you could, the science that people talk about is people who lose a limb or lose whatever, they lose something material,
Yeah.
and you would think they would be terminally depressed, or they'd just readjust back, right?
Yes.
It,
So,
it,
so
it's a,
true.
it's something of the magic of the human condition.
Mhm.
So you are what you can adapt to anything. So if you're here and you want to get here, you can go there.
Mhm.
It's a free choice. Like if you're here and you decide this is shitty and you're somehow you deserve it, you'll just go down.
Yeah.
You can move
We
up if
keep
you go the
looking
other
for
way. But
proof of that, right? If your
yeah,
beliefs say
totally.
this, we say, okay, well, if that's my belief, then how do we keep making that true so I can make sure I'm safe in the world, right?
Right, right.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
want to be ever we validate being true rather than being, the potential of being greater, right? It's better to
yes,
focus on something bigger, right? If
yeah,
we don't have a dream. And so I mentioned before Gateway.
yes.
So I'm a massive board gamer, as I was saying before, and in the board game industry, I've kind of studied it, right? And it really grew from like 1980s onwards. In Germany, they created this thing called the Spiel des Jahres, the Game of the Year Award, Spiel des Jahres. Um, and that really kind of propelled the industry forward. But one of the terms that propelled the industry was what people call gateway games.
Mm,
Right. We've also heard the word gateway drug, right?
yes,
Probably.
of course.
Right. But let's stick to
I'm
games.
like sad that
Uh,
that's the one I'm familiar with. I'd like to hear about gateway games instead.
so gateway games are, if you're a gamer, whatever you are in life, whether you're into knitting or hiking, you always want more. You want to try and convince everyone else to be like you, right? You want your friends to knit or play games or go hiking or do gateway drugs, whatever. So you gamers, the way people bring people into games is through what are called gateway games. And I can name a few for you, like Settlers of Catan, Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride. These are all games that are
Things that get
classically
people into
right. They're
various
light, they're
games.
lightweight, they're
Right.
easy to teach, that people leave the experience wanting more. You don't go and teach them Dimaco, which is like one of the heaviest weight get, it's like a real serious game. No one's going to come out of that going, "Oh, can you give me some more heavy games to play?" That's too much, right?
Right.
You give them something that's like gives them a rewarding experience, and then it's a little bit of the drug metaphor is, "Oh, that was good. I'll have some more," right? And so gateway games, exactly that. And I then found myself asking this question: what is a gateway deck, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of games, sort of, it talked about games being too complicated and too serious and too heavy. They don't draw people in. When you get into the gaming space, you climb up the ladder and find the place where you want to play. And it's the same with card decks. You
Okay.
need to remember the industry for its own good, if it wants to grow, if it has that feeling, right? As a consciousness, do we want to grow this thing? Do we want to make decks more accessible to more people? I tend to use the word democratize. Let's put decks in the hands of the masses, right? If we want to democratize, we need to find the killer deck, the gateway deck, right? Uh, I always cite three really simple decks that I think everyone should own. They're just like building blocks, right? Um, Everyone should own a values deck. What do you value?
Love
If
that.
you know your if you know your values, I pretty much guarantee you will live a happier life,
Mhm.
right? Because you go to bed at night and say, "Did I live today in accordance with my values?" Oh yeah, I did. Okay, you're
Yeah.
gone, right?
Yeah. I have a thing I do where I go, can I, if I were colloquially like coming out from a job, which I don't because I work from home now, but if I were coming in from a job, would I hang my hat up and say, that was a good day of work? You know, this
Right.
is my like my I'm
Exactly.
like a 50s like banker. I come home and I say, well, that was a great day at the bank. And if I can have that
And
feeling, that's my okay, I'm good to go to
and
sleep.
the opposite of that is like, I had a shitty day today. Why did I agree to do that? Why did I let that person
Nothing
speak to me
working.
like,
I love
why didn't I
mine.
stand? Right.
Yes, yes.
That's because number one clue, you're not living in accordance with your values. Maybe if you don't even know what do you value? Do you ever express yourself? Right.
Yes.
And if people don't express their needs and wants,
Yeah.
they get trodden on, right? So we say that's too like funny ways. Guys are really good at this. Like I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm hungry. We like just
It's as it is.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
No, I respect that about the masculine communication. I always think, well, that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Just to say your things.
Yeah, but it's actually a skill to do it more broadly than that,
I
right?
mean,
Because
I agree also with that, but
you know,
there's just skill. I mean, we could use sometimes a bit more direct language too, as feminine
right.
communication has its fall, his
And
shortcomings,
and some of this stuff is definitely male female energy. It's fascinating, right? It's like
Mm.
because guys could really, whether they might not want to agree to this, but they should, if they embrace some more of that softer side. Because you ask a guy, like so one gateway deck is an values deck, a second one is a strengths deck, and a third one is emotions deck,
Oh,
right? And emotions deck. So let's just role play a little bit, right? If I was you ask a guy how he's feeling, what does he say? He says, I get you 9 out of 10 of them say, I'm fine,
I know.
right? So fine is
I kind of
not
say, what were you after fine? What after that one? What about another time? I was
fine. Fine is a blocking tactic.
yeah, or
Fine is that
good,
like,
right? Good,
I,
fine, end of conversation.
right. And I always find it funny when you go to a supermarket and there's someone says, how you doing today? Right. They don't want to know. But if you actually pour it out,
Always. I'm that person.
they're like, I didn't want that. I was only being polite.
Yeah.
Right. But if we cultivate a much broader emotional vocabulary, so I can tell you I'm hot, I'm nervous, I'm energetic, I'm
Mm.
frustrated, blocked, just
Hopeful.
so pumped, hopeful, yeah, aspirational. Like I'm just,
Yeah.
oh, I'm edgy, nervous, anxious, whatever it is, right? And
Yeah.
then you can actually say, how do I feel that? Where in my body do I feel it? Because otherwise we just pick random words out, right?
Yeah. Like what's
Because
telling you that?
this is a sensory device that we walk around in. We're
Mm.
perceiving and thinking. So if we can't, oh, that signal, what does that mean? Oh, that means anxious. Why am I anxious? Oh, right? So if you can cultivate emotional vocabulary, you're in a great spot. And I think that's what card decks, an emotions card deck helps you. How am I feeling today? It's a journaling thing. I can write it down. But you can cultivate a broader, richer emotional vocabulary. You can express your values so you don't live a messed up life. And the third one was a strengths deck. Because if you live to your strengths and ignore your weaknesses, delegate your weaknesses. Other people, your weaknesses are someone else's strengths, right?
Yeah.
Get ChatGPT to do it, automate the damn thing. Don't do it, right? Um, those are building blocks, right? If you dive deeper into Oracle, affirmations, manifestation, tarot decks, what are they doing? They're just another tool to get people to express and explore and question. It doesn't matter how it gets done. If I try and get you to do something directly, like a full frontal attack, you're like, but if I sneak up on you through game mechanics and through questions and through archetype descriptions, that basically what is tarot is archetypal
Yep.
game that you tell a story and I put it on. Whatever you tell me, you could talk to me for an hour and I'm going to pick three things you said. I'm going to wear them like my coat.
Hmm.
That's right. And it it's immersion, it's emotional, it's getting people to think something or move someone from A to B. Like personal growth is about transformation. I'm here unhappy, and now I want to get here to be happy, energized, curious, and charged, right? How
Mm.
do I do that? That's a transformational journey. And I think that's what card decks can do for people, except card decks are too hard to get hold of.
Mm.
You have to go into a quirky store.
They're
It's
seen
wrapped
as
up in
woo woo, so
cellophane.
the woo
Yeah,
woo people. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I've
Yeah.
coined the term. I coined the term the woo-ometer,
Yeah. The
and
woo.
it's like,
Yeah.
woo.
Yeah.
And some people hate woo. Some people hate tarot because they think it's religious, and they've misplaced it. It's not anti-religious or anything. It's just a storytelling mechanic,
Yeah.
right? That helps you express, explore, get curious, and dive into what it is that's upsetting you. And it's going to come back to misplaced values, non-use of your strengths, and lack of ability to express emotions to tell you where you are, right? So,
And it's so true. Like a lot of people who go to these card decks in the first place are looking to it for like a reflection or an
right,
understanding or an experience of some kind, right? And in order to receive anything of any value from any of these, you have to be receptive. You have to be open and
right,
receiving or intuitive or feeling or something that is like a
right.
part of our brain
And
that really needs to be used, right?
And
It's
we were wonderful that as kids. It got beaten out
totally.
of us by the system, conformity, pressure. Just do as you're told. Just do as we say. Trust the sign. Whatever you want to say. Like just trust
Yeah.
the thing. Just go and do what I say. Right.
Yeah.
We're all empowering people to be de-empowered. Right. And we have to go against that. And curiosity is like bring back your childhood curiosity.
Hmm.
You know. And that's
Because it
I
can.
think
I
that's
mean, you're
part of the
just playing a
magic.
card. You play a game. It's just playing with cards, right? Like it's not
Right.
that threatening. But then someone sees
It's
a tarot
not.
deck and they get really intimidated sometimes, right? Like,
Right.
ooh, that's not for me,
And
you know?
unfortunately, people don't look at it and go, what is this thing? And like
Yeah.
as a gamer, as someone who's invented board games, I look at everything as what's the mechanic that's going on? What thing is happening, right? So all this stuff I told you, we just talked about gateway decks and emotions and strengths and values. I didn't get all that when I started Deckible. I didn't know all that. I started it and started gathering these decks and realized, oh, because to me, what's fascinating is there's two crowds who really use card decks in a big way today, right? There's we know the OracleFest is centered around the Oracle affirmations manifesting tarot card,
Mystics.
right? The mystics, right? And the other side of the camp, which is somewhat partly separate, but actually there's more of a fusion than you know,
Love this.
facilitators, coaches, strategists,
Yes.
they use decks in a completely different way.
Hmm.
but they think it's different, but it's not. It's all the same, right?
Totally.
And and there are lots of people in the workplace. I mean, I have huge debates with some people about this. They just don't get it, and they feel threatened by it. It's like, whatever it is, right? But there is a fusion. There's a lot of people taking this kind of spiritual and replace the word spiritual for emotion connected feeling, right?
Yep.
You don't need the label could offend you as a way to walk away. I'm not going into spiritual. I'm not going into tarot. But okay, do you want to be expressive? Do you want to be connected to your being? Do you have dreams and aspirations that you feel, what are you feeling, right? That's what card decks can do. So I would say just don't look at the labels. But I think the industry, if if the industry had understood this more, it would be more accessible to more people, right? And that's what's passion. That's what gets me up in the morning thinking, you know what? I personally reckon that tarot and oracle accounts for somewhere between 7 and 10% of the population, if that, if it's pretty generous, right? It should be 100. I just talked about emotions, strengths, and values decks, right? And that leads you into everything else that is affirmations, oracle, tarot. It might have a labeling branding problem, but the whole point is to make it more inclusive, more approachable, more accessible, more affordable, and always with you. When
Yeah.
you have a shitty moment during the day, where are you?
Hmm.
Where is your card deck, right? I mean, you know where I'm going with this one, but yeah,
I
digitally, it's
do,
with
and
you,
it's
right?
funny because I was
Right.
like, yeah, you know what? I never have a card deck on me. All I have is pendulums in my purse. That was my concern. That's me at the coffee. We joke, Nick, but this is me at the coffee shop. But I have an easy time bringing people into my world because I think, you know what, I can get really rational and tell you how this works, but such a
Right.
moment basis. And you're right. In general, it's not like I'm every item at the grocery store pulling my pendulum out. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have the opportunity to maybe
Let me
relate.
just let me
Right?
just tap for that, see
Yes,
what I feel.
exactly, exactly. But you'd be surprised the number of times I whipped something out in public to try and have a decision made.
Yeah, so that's what we see is like I feel like I stumbled into this by accident.
Hmm.
It totally wasn't accident. Like I have a history of my background is in technology and in board games. I prior to this, I was a co-founder of a startup called Listly, which is a social list platform. Lists are a medium, right? So Listly got me thinking mediums, right? Because what mediums are there? There's lists, books, slide decks, card decks, video, games. These are all mediums, right? I've dived into it deep and thought, oh God, there's really something special about cards, and there is because they're a game, and that gets if I ask you to do something uncomfortable, you know, arms crossed, I don't like this, doesn't feel good for me, right? So you withdraw. But if I sneak up on you and we start playing a game, I didn't ask you the direct frontal attack question. We snuck in with a game mechanic. You've warmed up. It's all like happening. We achieved our result. It wasn't painful, right?
Well, think of these conversation cards,
That,
right? You put those on a table, and people are more
right,
willing to go into a really cool. This is a great phase that we've
right.
opened up, which is like, I'm sorry, we can
Yeah.
actually have real, genuine conversations. The sensitive people
And
of our world have been praying for a card deck like this for years, these
right,
types
right.
of
And
things.
my board game was is called GiftTRAP, and it's all about gift exchange.
Mhm.
And there isn't a rule in the game that says you have to say anything. You can play it in complete silence. So there's no forcing you to tell me about how you feel and all that kind of stuff, right? I absolutely guarantee you the magic of the game, the reason the game won so many awards and sold so many copies was was because it has this magical way of getting people to talk without being forced. It's totally voluntary. People they can't, they're like, why did you give me that? You should have wanted this because you do this. And the people are expressing the both sides of the story. That's not in the game, not the rules. It's just an
About how
effective social engagement because the game itself sets up an environment where that happens, right?
right.
And that's the magic of Cardiff. So when I produced Gift Trap, Table Topics, I don't know if you've heard of Table Topics, but Table Topics is these little beautiful, like it comes in acrylic box. It's
Yes,
got like
yes.
100 cards in it. They've got like hundreds of different versions of table topics, and they're like a forerunner to this question experience, right?
Mm.
How many question card decks are there out there? It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, insane. Wonderful. Not insane in a negative way. I'm just saying there is an immense amount of
There's a
choice,
huge
right?
need for it, though so many has been
Right.
created,
There
right?
are there are as many. Are there too many songs in the world? No. Right? There's
Yeah.
so many songs on Spotify, so there's so many card decks that kind of do similar things. Does it matter? No, because it helps you, whichever is the deck that speaks to you.
Mhm.
This goes back to Harry Potter, right? Which is like let the wand pick you. You
Yes.
know, the deck, which deck is the deck that speaks to you? Whatever it is, right? There isn't
Yeah.
one. It's whatever. Maybe it's the color, maybe it's the theme, maybe it's the artist, maybe it's whatever it is, right?
And it's why sometimes like people will ask me like, "Oh, why do you have so many decks?" Right? Very good question. Why do I have so
Yeah,
many decks? You'd think
and
one would be enough, you know?
and
But when you start understanding the context of how
right,
to use them, oh, I need
right,
more because how I need as
right,
many Oracle
and
decks as I need to
and
communicate.
and if you look at your wardrobe, how much of your wardrobe you wear?
Yeah,
Very small percentage, right? So
yeah,
you buy things the oh, I thought this would be great. Oh, I used that deck for 3 weeks. It was fantastic. It was trend from. I don't use it anymore. I've moved on to here.
right.
We're fickle. We get bored. We need variety. Like it's a human experience,
And
right?
there's different
And
reasons we grow, we evolve as well, right? So
uh,
sometimes you might be working with a
yeah,
deck for a while and it might have
and,
exactly the right messages, and then you grow
and
and you need something else.
yeah. One of the big things I think about, and again, this is something else I didn't really get before Deckible, right? But is daily practice. We
Mhm.
turn up and do something, right? We build a habit. That's how you get better, stronger, happier, right?
Yeah.
Is turning up and doing a little bit every day, right? And that's what card decks do. They let you build up that habit. But instead of like, if you stopped using cards because you got bored of one deck and chose to do something else, you're giving up the habit. People buy another deck to replace the one they've got a bit bored of, or to take them to the next level. Oh, I've learned that. I want to move on to this now, right? And you could buy a card deck of like, I don't know, ACT, CBT,
Yeah.
DBT, like therapy modalities, right? You can buy a deck of metaphoric associative card decks of images that help you. You could buy a deck of questions.
Yep. You could probably buy a deck
Not
of pets.
you absolutely can. You can. It probably outsell because there's it's so fun and simple and socially shareable.
Well, and here's the thing, right? If that is enough to put you in a good mood and your daily
Uh,
practice is bringing yourself joy every morning, isn't that more joy than what you had the week before you were doing that practice? And so it's not
yeah,
a
absolutely.
stupid thing. It's
Yeah,
absolutely a wise thing to say
but
whatever works to get your vibe lifted into a place where you feel better in your life is better.
right. It is. And, we got to encourage us all to be weird, right? If as soon as we stop telling people to conform and not be weird, you know,
Yep,
where's the joy in life in that? Just
exactly.
conform. Let's be the same. Let's turn out 1,000 million clones of the same person. We're
Yeah.
not that.
Well, and
We're all
speaking of
different.
which, this is also such a good like creativity tool, isn't it?
Right.
Right. So
Oh my
all
God.
our people who
Yeah.
are like really great thinkers who are having difficulty solving problems, try
Right.
the Oracle deck out. Use the other side of your
Yeah.
brain and find it has more strength the more you use it, right? It's like a muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's I hear this one's creativity tarot, right?
Amazing.
It's undeckable, by the way. It just takes you the idea of creativity. And one thing that's interesting to me is tarot itself is like the longest, biggest running meme of all time. What is a meme?
Yeah.
We take something that's already done and we create our own little tweaky version of it, and it's slightly different. Tarot is the biggest,
So
longest
fun.
running meme of all time. How many copies of the original theme has there been? I mean, there's like bazillions of them, right? And
Yes,
but it's
absolutely.
just you're standing on the shoulders of these archetypes that describe everybody in life.
Mhm,
That's your major arcana, and the other actors and players and influences are there.
mhm.
It just connects to people, right? It's a fun thing. There's a reason. It's not you can't propel you try and force anything through society, it doesn't happen, right? Why has tarot persisted? Because it connects. And the problem is the thing I feel most sad about is that the people who don't get it, they've put it in a box and said it's bad or evil. It's like, oh my God, you're missing out. You're attaching to the label of what it is and the origins of some of it instead of saying, Well, I bet you there's actually a tarot deck out there that speaks to exactly everything you believe. You just haven't looked for it because you've said the box is bad. I'm not going into the room. I don't like the store that it's in. I don't like the people that are in there. They're not my type of people.
Mhm. Mhm. It's so true.
But,
It's isolating also an experience that could be exactly the framework that their mind needs to make sense of something in the world,
right.
right? Like I've had
Yeah.
people come to see me because they want my understanding of business deals or something that they're doing because they feel something off, but they want to make sure that there's some other way of explaining that, to make
Mm,
sense of it for them instead of just trusting this feels off, that's off. That's it
right.
for me. Okay, I'm not
Right.
making an
Right.
investment, that's done, right? Because it didn't feel, aligned for it could be that the next investment that comes in is going to give them twice the return and it was never worth sweating over, and that's the whole point, right? And it's only insight
Right.
and intuition that allows us to kind of gain that access. But that person
Well,
feel connected to
you,
themselves, right?
you also have to dare to have an abundant mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you believe in a sparsity, that's exactly what you get.
You look for the validation and the proof, right? So, I
Right.
mean, fair point. There are abundance decks that people use to open up their
Right.
mindset to say, actually,
Right.
some of these conditions and ways I was thinking of things are limiting my capacity
Right.
to make a good decision here because I can only
Right.
see what the blinders have that I had
Right.
on allow me. We've always
Right.
got some level
And
of that to
you
shed.
know, every human being walks into a bar or a restaurant and orders the same thing they had last time. Maybe there's 20 things on the menu, you order three. There's only three you order from. So that it's not just food
There's
picking.
comfort zones that we
We,
reside
we,
in where we feel
we
familiar.
right. And that's what's cool about card decks. It says, oh, shuffle it up. Oh, look, card popped out of the deck.
A
Must be for
cocktail
me.
deck. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, look. I
yeah.
love that there's a book, The Dice Man. This guy like lives this guy by rolling dice. And that's a similar kind of thing. It's like just just step out of your predictable. We don't realize how predictable we are,
Yes, I
right?
agree. I
And
agree.
that's some of the magic is find new options. So blame it on the this is a really cool, I go to this amazing meetup called Cardstock, which is based in the UK, and it's all about business deck usage. And we were one week or 1 month, there was the topic was why are card decks important, why they're so critical. And I'd missed this, but this came up to me as a really big point. Was card decks are magical because they say what you don't have to. Right. If I said to you, you know that I don't really like what you're wearing today, that doesn't look very like whatever it is, pick a funny thing to like pick on, right?
Like,
But
how dare you not
or
wear
that
this t-shirt?
yeah, or the feedback, your event, yeah, your website sucks. Like, okay, that's very personal. But if I draw out from a UX design card deck 27 different things and points and tips and say, look, the card deck says, so it depersonalizes it. If I give you feedback about something you're not doing correctly or that could be optimally or could be hurting you, it's hard to give you that because I said it to you. It was my words. Oh, you horrible, mean person. But when you draw from the deck, you know, my pack of cards just fell down. Um, I had a stack of boxes here. Oh,
I know.
there
I'm
we
like,
go.
see which ones are flipped up now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well,
um,
and true also in that scenario, the person also needs to be receptive. And what I notice is a beautiful magical moment that happens when people show up with cards or with an intent to receive from something, right? Is to say,
right,
okay, I'll take that in. I'll take that in, right? Whereas
right,
when we are going through life with a defensive energy towards anything, that it's because we feel like we're on the like we're getting attacked, right? And that's a lot of the way a lot of people can feel because we feel powerless to these bigger things outside of ourselves. And part of doing the spirit side of deck work, right? We
right.
can talk accessibility, but even from a super logical perspective, the spiritual aspect of oracle work is to just open our mind, our heart, our capacity of
Right.
understanding greater than ourselves some of these powers that are not beating us down, but maybe that are helping us. We can feel
You just
supported,
you
right?
just made me think that instead of the word spiritualness, you could actually replace it with openness, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like, oh, I could do instead of I'm out of my we all live in our little furrows in our field, right? And we know our little bit. We don't pop our head up and look around and go, what else is there? We life is just too predictable and too the same. And joy and transformation comes when you go, oh, I don't want to be in this for. Oh, I can do that. I can try that one, right? One of my favorite TV shows as a kid growing up was this thing called Mr. Ben, and you can Google it, Mr. Ben.
Well,
He always used he always used to go. He lived in London somewhere, and he'd go down the street to this. It's called a fancy dress store, but I think in America they call it dress up.
mhm.
And he would go into this store and he would say and he would choose an outfit to try on this week, right? And so tonight this week I'm gonna be a knight. And he would go into the changing room and he would like Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. He'd walk out the back. Right? So it was this beautiful metaphor of like try on whatever you want in
I'm gonna be
life.
this
And
today. I'm gonna be that today.
right,
Yeah, we had
yeah,
in my generation it was Pippi Longstocking, and
there
she
we
was
go.
like,
Yeah,
what am I gonna do today? I'll just do anything
right,
I like. Yeah.
right. So that's a beautiful metaphor of trying things on for size, right? Whatever
Mhm.
you want. And I think card decks do a lot of offering that to people. But
Yeah, so
I
true.
mean, it's so funny. I don't know if one's sticking with us at this point who's watched all this to the end. They're either in or out.
It's
Like,
so true. No,
you
I
know,
just think
and it's
back
like,
in more of the mountain
you know,
chest.
it's it's like, okay, yeah, it's hard to open up people to change, but if they can't start on the journey to being open, then they have the free script to write your life. Right? You're writing your own novel. You're
Yes.
living your own dream. You are the star of your own show. If you want to be the star, if you want to be the victim, then that's
And you're
self-fulfilling,
gonna
right?
keep finding how that's true the same way someone
All
who
right,
thinks they're the star is gonna keep seeing every moment as their debut, right?
right. No,
True. I
it's
love
true.
sometimes when you really see someone who embodies that is like that person is a celebrity in their own life, you know?
Right.
I get
Yeah.
so amused. Like I get joyful seeing someone
Yeah.
just owning, have you ever seen someone like strut down the street listening to music that's like, wow,
Yeah.
that person's
Yeah.
really feeling themselves today. I
No,
love
it's great.
that.
You can see it. You can feel well, like
Yeah, yeah,
you can see and feel energy, right?
totally, totally. And it just gives me, I
Uh,
just have this chuckle to myself. I go, wow, yeah,
right.
that's what I'm aiming for.
It was funny. One of the things that I really got into this space was I got certain envy because a lot of people in this industry use the word I can see that. I
Mm,
see this. Like people say, I've I've spoken to many people who talk about the seeing an energy field around someone, right? Oh, I felt so jealous and deficient. And then I suddenly realized, just a minute, I have that. I just used you can talk to me about something and I see a product. I see an idea. Seeing is a metaphor. We all experience seeing differently. It's like, um, but not to be able to see anything. Everyone has the skills and the right to see things. You just have to actually sit in the spot and look for it
mm,
and reward yourself when you have that thought or that feeling or that noticing and
yeah,
build a little more and a little more, right?
yes,
Well, we
exactly.
don't realize just how we're like whack-a-mole. People, we get whack-a-mole back into our hole
Hmm.
instead of popping up and going, "Ooh, this is cool. I'm going
Yes,
to stay up here. No one's going to whack me today. I'm not going. No, don't whack me.
exactly.
Yeah, it's
I
it's a
brought through
free.
a meerkat spirit animal for someone recently, and it's giving me the same memory because I had that sensation that they were just popping up with curiosity. And it was
Right.
funny because they were in a family attachment thing that felt really like too much. And I went, well, you could just
Okay.
pop up over here. Well, you could just pop up here, and you could look at it this way, or you could look at it over
Right.
this way. I think it's a great testament to actually how it feels to open your mind, right? You're just popping up in different areas, seeing how it feels.
Is that is that in reverse for you? I can't
Oh
see.
my gosh, no, no, I can read it. The business
It's a
meerkat. That's so
yeah.
cute.
So that is absolute 100% proof. When I said before, that's a facilitator
Yep,
taking business people into the world of woo.
I love that.
And it works for this guy because he basically goes into people and they don't see it coming. They didn't expect it.
It's
So
playful, it's fun.
they don't have a classic response. I don't order the same drink or the same food. I eat from a different menu, right? And that's
And there is a
here's
scientific,
the meerkats.
yeah, I know. Cheers to meerkats and to business, right? Let's just like not scorn either of them in that one. That's cute.
Yeah.
Um, Isn't there something, you might know this better than I do here? There's some sort of science fact that also says when we learn something through play, we learn it that much fast, 3 times as fast. There's something, do you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, I do. So, the statistic that I know is we remember 10% of what we read,
Right.
but we remember 90% of what we experience.
In play.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so I went to an amazing event in Poland called the College of Extraordinary Experiences. Google it afterwards. It's
I totally
stunning.
will.
It's like it is Woo Palace. It's everyone there is like, but they're not necessarily. They're more actors, theatrical, singers, playwrights,
Right.
business people that design experiences and create amazing museums, and they're all 100% experience first
Mhm.
because they've recognized experience transforms people.
Yes.
And so I went to this event and I was just like, I think this is a really weird event for me to go to. It speaks to me, it's calling me. And I went there and went, fuck, these are my people. This is so cool. Right? It was really amazing. And after that, I learned of something else called the WXO, which is the World Experience Organization. And they're also advocating experience. And there's a book and then this all spoke to me because I'd read a book called The Experience Economy by Joseph Pine that came out, I think, in like 97. And you think he predicted the rise of the experience economy. We're now 30 years later and it's still coming. Like,
Yes, it is.
just because, the iPhone pops from nowhere and becomes massively available, but some human traits and changes and habits take a long time,
They
right?
do. Yeah. Yeah,
And
not everything's
experience,
growing at that same rapid pace. There are some things that
right,
will remain. Yes. Yeah.
right. And card decks is one of those. It's a slow, steady burn, right? But
Uh-huh.
more and more people are like the bus is getting bigger. It's more of a multi-cart train, not a bus anymore.
Mhm.
There are many people jumping on it, right? Every day I discover, and I've spent more hours. I don't think you could find a single human being on this planet who spent more hours looking at card decks than me, right? Obvious reasons. Founder of Deckible, like I'm curious. I Every week I find a deck or a collection of decks that I've not found before. I've found many. My estimate is there's 100,000 decks, and that's seriously understated.
Yep.
But it's a believable number, so no one's questioned it. It's definitely understated. But like I find stuff like Stephen Bartlett, who's Diary of a CEO podcast, made a deck. Why did he make a deck? He's freaking quite a smart guy,
Very smart.
right? He went, oh, something about card decks. I'll jump on the
Yes.
bus. He's on the train, right?
Yeah.
Oprah, Deepak Chopra.
Yes.
This week I saw, you know what DoorDash is?
Yes.
DoorDash. I'm like, I'm Googling, like, I found this deck thing, and I'm like, that's from DoorDash? What? It was a card deck from DoorDash, and was, they're delivering card decks. So you,
Interesting.
so you can,
Interesting. So
you can,
experiences we want to our door.
right, right, right. So I was like, God, straight, this place, this space, I'm like, feel like I'm sitting
Hmm.
with this energy download of people just constantly pouring more and more energy into the
Yes.
space, right?
Yes.
There's more and more proof, more and more data, more and more people creating courses on how to create decks,
Mhm.
more creators creating decks, more decks coming out of, the big five publishers, your Random Houses and your Hachettes. It's just, but it's still a fringe movement. It's not going to be for long
Yep.
because it's, democratization is a powerful term. It's a powerful idea. People want choice. We're obsessed with choice,
Yep.
personalization. When when we all
People
grew
have
up,
a choice, and that's a big solution for a lot of people's discomfort right now, is feeling like we don't have a choice in anything or a choice in the matter.
right,
So
right, right,
this really empowers the people to have this knowledge
uh,
spread.
exactly. We grew up, when we're from a slightly different ages, but we grew up where we watched TV in the room with our family,
Mhm.
right? We watched the same show. We waited for the next episode to come,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You get yourself a
Now,
commercial break.
yeah, now you put three people in a room, they're watching this different devices on the
Yes.
different content on their own device,
Yep.
possibly even two devices. They're watching the TV and they're doing something on their phone.
Yep.
Like, is it good or bad? You could argue
Yeah.
either way, but it's like,
I
you know
know.
what? If that's the way it is, it's very hard to undo it, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to stop the tide.
Yeah.
But when in the middle of being in that tide, you can rise up and use the energy of the tide to your own advantage. You don't have to be a victim of the tide, right?
Surf the wave.
Yeah, you don't have to doom scroll. You
Hmm.
can take control. You can design things, design your own distractions. Don't let somebody else do it, right?
Yeah.
But that's where we
Empower
are.
them,
We're
have
in,
them lead to
right,
some experience, right? So if
right.
you are doing something, engaging on your phone that is leading to an experience, you have a very different feeling. It's like how they
Right.
say people should book their vacations. That gives you the same excitement as actually
Right.
packing and
Oh,
going on the vacation, right? Like that there's something about that. Yeah.
that. So you just reminded me. So that's how um, for every holiday, I read an amazing book. It's called Time and How We Spend It by James Wellman. And James is the founder of the Chief Experience CX, the World Experience Organization,
Okay.
WXO. I read the book before I found all that, but it's all connected. He basically talks about for every holiday, how do we maximize memory and experience, right? Because if it's more memorable, we waste it was time well spent, right? And he basically talks about how you arrive on holiday, arrive for a big event, do one big thing in the middle, and it's how you leave. Just so you're basically making you're making an experience sandwich, right? The beginning, the end, and put the meat in the middle, and that's it. When you realize that, you should design your life to be more memorable, right?
Mm.
So you should plan your experiences for, and your card decks are this amazing experience design thing, a toolkit that you can be part of, right? And Oracle's part of that, affirmations part of that, dreaming, manifesting, vision boards. These are all wonderful tools that let you choose, create your own memory sandwiches, right? So it's a fun space to be in, but you have to choose and take control and make your own destiny, right? Otherwise, you become the receiver. You end up buying ready meals just to
Yeah.
keep going down the same thing, right? I'll go to
Yeah.
McDonald's and I'll just have I won't have a free choice. I'll just have
I'll
you
just
what you
take what's
gave me.
offered.
Right.
Yep.
Quicker, easier. I didn't have to think about it. No.
Yes.
You
No.
know, because for me, like the same thing for food is I love designing my holidays.
Hmm.
I love thinking about where I'm going. I want to have at least a month
Yep.
of thinking about it. And then I want at least a month to do the countdown, like it's the Christmas kids. How many sleeps
Excitement.
till week? Right, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
you're there. How do you maximize being there? And then how do you maximize the memories after being there?
Yeah, how do you savor that experience and hold it
Right,
in your heart and continue to reflect positively and say, yeah, that was well worth it, or I would go back again, right? And yeah,
right,
it is the choice of how we choose to believe or think about these experiences while in the moment also really impacts how we remember them, right? Our brain has to be
right,
for that. So anything that exercises your brain's ability to receive and neutralize and then accurately analyze or understand what's going on, which, hey,
yeah,
all these decks do that functionality in
right,
his brain.
right.
It's amazing
Yeah.
what's opening up here.
Don't pick the ready meal. Choose your food, plan your holidays, you know.
Yes.
Metaphor if you like going to a all-in-one inclusive thing in Mexico, that's fine. But just make sure you choose what you want rather than just going with what's
It's not just because
pushed
you
at
get to
you.
go every year and
Right,
if that was the thing you wanted to do every year and that comfort continued to help you, right? Then what is it you make this one better than the year before and every one
right,
better and better and better? So there has to be tiny changes, at least in those patterns, right? Because
right,
that's cool. If you really love that, all inclusive, go ahead and do that. Not my jam. I like going and experiencing new things, but there are places I'd go back to. But you know what? I'd go back to Paris because I really want to go back and do it with a bunch of other things that I dreamed about while I was there, because that'll make it even
right.
better, right? And so then you're always improving upon the meaning or
And
theme. Not to say I'm spending more or having to do more, but it's something about deepening into your life and what you experience.
it's like the meaning of life is
Yes.
what do you get from it, right? It's like,
Yes.
well, you can at the end of life, when you look back and like, you know, Bronnie, have you heard of Bronnie Ware, The Regrets of the Dying? It's a very famous
Mhm.
book.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, right. Also on Deckable, by the way. But
yes.
um, yeah, those people who look back as things they didn't do,
Mhm.
right? Their life is less memorable because they just chose the ready meal, right? No,
Absolutely.
sorry, McDonald's. I'm not going to go at ready meals, but
No,
it's
I
like
know.
just it's a metaphor. Right?
Yeah.
Think freely. So, like, if you design your life on the way through, when you look back at what you had, understanding these things, we all tick differently. So, no answer, but it's like get the tools, equip yourself with the tools to make an experience and remember things better, right?
And enjoy your
And
life in the
yeah,
simplest, drilling
yeah.
all of what you're saying. It really is also a tool
Go,
to,
we've gone deep on the metaphors here today.
I know, it's so beautiful.
Metaphor counting is like, okay, I should
Yeah.
little metaphor
A
counter, like
little
how many.
meme metaphor counter. Yeah. I love that. And I actually
Uh,
really, I'm still reeling thinking about, oh yeah, tarot, the original meme. That's great. I love that way of looking
that's
at
so
it as
true.
it
It's
is. Yeah, makes me
I'm
understand emo.
surprised. I don't think people get it. I don't
Hmm.
know. I said that, but the reason people don't get it is because everyone's attached to their own deck,
That's it, of course.
right? They're in their own little furrow and they go, "Oh, I'm not part of a bigger movement." Well, actually,
Yeah.
whenever you're part of a movement,
Hmm.
that gives you meaning and purpose. You have a crowd, you have a community. That's what
Hmm.
tarot is, right? Even
Yes.
if you hate that deck, they're still part of your thing. And
Yeah.
actually, broader than that, all the card decks are a meme, right? They're a format. It's different than a
Yes.
book. A book, you can flip through it, read it linearly. Card decks, it's non-linear, right? It's
Yes.
tactile, it's fun. Every card deck it's like there's only so many things you can do with the card deck. There's only so many ways to read a book, right? But
Hmm.
it's a medium that you can play with and you can pick up one deck and expect to shuffle it, flip it, arrange it,
Hmm.
group it, make choices, make piles, yes, no, maybe. Like,
Yes, it's
you
quite
know,
expansive, especially when
right,
people build these decks that combine upon each other as well. I mean,
right,
the Cards Against Humanity thing from coming from the
right,
Diagram, people know that, or well, they have expansion packs in so many
right.
games, right?
Well, and Cards Against Humanity is pretty much exactly the same game as Apples to Apples. You heard of Apples to
Mhm.
Apples?
Yes, yes.
But, and this is the really cool thing that I couldn't have fed you this, or you couldn't have fed this up better because we hadn't had this conversation, but you just talked about Cards Against Humanity, Apples to Apples. Exactly, they're both exactly the same mechanic, right? Pick a weird thing that which card will make the judge laugh most, right? You know what the card game is that does exactly that for tarot and oracle decks? No? Dixit. Dixit. Go and get yourself a copy of Dixit. Play Dixit. It's just like apples to apples, but with pictures, visual metaphors, metaphoric
I think I've seen this.
association.
It's sticking
Right.
in my head. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so Dixit, you can play Dixit without Dixit.
Yes,
You can
that's what I'm
grab
saying.
any tarot deck and
Yes,
use the rules from Dixit. You'll use the tarot deck as an
it's a great
expansion to the
game.
Dixit. Right. And
Yes,
it's like that is okay. So this is like closing the loop back to Gateway, right?
beautiful.
Uh, is Dixit is an amazing um, gateway game. And
Right.
what's funny and weird about Dixit is I'm pretty sure that the company that creates that sells Dixit globally, and they're called Asmodee, and they're a pretty massive they're one of the biggest game companies in the world, or they're definitely in the biggest in the indie space. But I would be surprised. I would love to speak to the creator to understand the origin story because they either picked up a tarot deck and went, "Oh, we could make apples to apples out of this," or they actually randomly stepped into the space, created some original IP for a different inspiration, and it was magical. But I honestly, if you speak to facilitators around the world and HR people who interview people, they use Dixit cards in facilitation sessions. They're icebreakers, game players. Hire somebody in an interview and give them a Dixit card and see what they see. Which one do they choose? You learn about the person. You
Yes,
learn about their ability to articulate. You see what they see,
yes.
right? So
Mhm. I love
Card
that. And
decks
so
are
many of these are like psychological personality kind of frameworks for us to
right,
just bounce up against and say, hey, who are
right,
we and how are we feeling? How are we
and
interacting with this?
right. And
Totally.
it comes around to the loop to archetypes, right?
I
Which
was going
is,
to say the Caroline Mice
right,
archetypes deck. I
right,
love it. I use it in my program, my intuition development program, because how we understand ourselves if we don't put ourselves up against some of these different archetypes, bounce
mm,
ourselves off and see, hey, okay, I know who I am now. I get it.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember we're going back to the idea I was saying about the jealousy of hearing people say they see things. And it's like,
Right.
are you a reader? No, I'm not really a reader, but I actually, in a classic sense,
Yeah.
I see things. I'm like, I invent things for a living. I always have.
Mhm.
And that's my gift. That's the vision. Like, you could tell me about something. I could walk down a street and experience something, and I'll just see a product that we should create to solve that problem, right?
Mm.
That's just, I'm like,
When some circles we label that like an open channel to invention, right? To
right,
the
right,
need of genius
yeah,
to ideas to
right,
right to the innovation that our
right,
worlds need. And to me that's just the same, which is why I think a lot of our innovative minds really do need this understanding of receptivity. How do you still remain open to the flow of like ideas coming through you? So these decks are like a portal into that receptive place in our brains,
right.
just another
Uh,
practice. It's like a
and
little
it,
hand grip tool. Instead of climbing at the wall, you're just practicing at your desk, you know?
yeah, exactly. So I find it fascinating because, so my game won a Spiel des Jahres prize in, I think, 2009, I forget, maybe 10. And then Dixit won the year after, right? They won the major prize. I won some minor prize. That's all good. But what stuns me, what's impressive to me is you think about like they will have sold millions of copies of Dixit around the world, right? So millions of people that weren't wooed off by the tarot wooness of because they didn't, it's not called that. It was magical. They didn't reference it, right? But it's using all of that visual, metaphoric, associative, emotional connection, expressive through words, what you see is different. Millions and millions of the people through Dixit have experienced that.
Yes.
And then you show someone a tarot deck or you make the connect, they go, oh, I hadn't seen that connection, but yeah, you're right?
I love that.
So this is mainstreaming. Dixit is mainstreaming of what we're talking about. When DoorDash is delivering this stuff, that's mainstreaming. When Stephen Bartlett this is mainstreaming,
Yeah,
right?
these conversation cards,
So,
that's a big
you
one.
know,
I thought the same thing actually when I saw
right,
the Diary of a CEO, and I was like, oh yeah, 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 that's yep.
right.
We're
So
obviously speaking the same
you know,
language.
God, it's a strange expression. It's probably being misused. But it's almost like cards are coming out of the closet. They've been this hidden, dark, and it's like Harry Potter under the stairs and put them
Yeah,
away,
yeah,
and now you leave them out everywhere. Like I don't put my card decks away. I
yeah.
leave them out because they're conversation starters. They're a daily inspiration, right? But they're
Yes.
metaphorically more people are seeing that. It's like, we talk about like this idea of people waking up and all that. I don't know where
Mhm.
we all sit on that because I think we all mean different things by it. But
Yes.
I think people are becoming more receptive and more open, and that's got to be a good thing, right? And
That's so
I
worthy
think
of celebration, if nothing else.
I think card decks do that for people. So
Agreed.
obviously I'm a fan of card decks, so maybe
Of
I'm biased,
course.
but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You're allowed to be a bit biased in that. I so
Yeah.
believe that you're right, though. I do think it creates this experience of flexibility and creativity and openness. Open-mindedness alone is such an important skill set. If we're going to have really
Yeah.
strong rationale, we have to have a mind open enough to consider all options. No? Right? That
Yeah.
makes
No,
sense.
absolutely.
So I
Yeah,
love
totally.
everything that you're putting forward and all the efforts that you're doing in the world to also put accessibility as a value, as of great importance for getting cards out to people, right? That people actually know their ways in and can find all these different, we say
Right.
that in different healing in healing circles that that just might be it's the gateway, right? Going to a sound
Right.
healing session could be the gateway to your understanding of animal spirit wisdom, because maybe an animal comes to visit you when you're in that experience, but you need the experiences in order to be able to make sense of that. You've got to be exposed to it. So it's like
Right. Right.
toes in wherever it feels comfortable. And if it feels comfortable for anyone to have a deck or the decks in their pocket so that they're getting their reading on the
Right.
mute, then that's
And
their
and it,
sneaky way to get it in.
and it's funny, like obviously with Deckible, we're digital, right? And there's a whole attachment in the card industry, historical, of like, it's got to be paper. Well,
Mhm.
it's all well and good. It's wonderful. And I applaud that. I smile about it sometimes, but I kind of just draw parallels to, and where's your albums?
Yeah.
Where are your CDs? People are, we were attached to
They
that, but
change
a
very
very,
quickly. For all these people who are not quite there yet, it's like
right,
just give it a try. We got used to online
right.
banking, didn't we? Most people,
Yeah.
you know?
And honestly, people talk about the energies in my deck and you only get me to touch my deck. And it's like, you know what? Computers are made of carbon and silicon in just the same way as paper. It's a belief system. I have as many people tell me, oh my God, the digital readings are just as, you know, even more valid or whatever. It's not a race, it's not a comparison, it's not a
Yes.
contest. It's a case of saying, at the end of the day, there's only one person who's going to actually change anything around here, and that's you.
Yes.
You go to a reading, whether you pay to have it done or you do it yourself,
Mhm.
the reading is not what it's about.
Yeah, you can follow the advice or not. It's all on
Right.
you.
And there's only you that's going to do it, right? And
Totally, totally.
all the deck is the oil, the lubricant, the wheels, the mechanic to make you shift, to empower you, to give you the confidence, the strength, to build the habits, to do whatever you want to be, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and we always have that power of our own choice. So they can't really scare us that much if they don't have the power to choose for us, right? Maybe.
Right.
I hope.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who are listening to this are probably already like, I love Oracle cards. I don't know. I don't know what they're talking about not using Oracle cards for.
I
But it's
know.
the variety and the knowing all the ways to explain it to people too that I think is empowering
Right.
even our
I
viewers.
think
So I'm
that's
very glad that you shared all of this today. Because for those
it's
of you
it's
who are already in, yeah, it's about how to bring other people to their own version of
right.
what
And,
this looks like for
and
them.
and I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's just absolute human nature. Everyone loves fishing,
Totally.
wants everyone else to go fishing. Everyone who plays board games plays golf.
Yeah.
Everyone's obsessed about their thing, and why don't you get it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of what I've talked about is giving people the tools to help sell their passion to their friends, right?
I love that.
So,
Beautiful. Okay, well, I'm so excited for this conversation, for ongoing conversations, and for you also to be at Oracle Fest in our publishing panel discussion. But we are going to be blessed to hear from Nick even before that, speaking more to the industry and more directly about Oracle cards. So today we're talking a little less about okay, spiritual and Oracle cards, and let's get in. We were talking kind of about the larger concepts, and I think you're at Oracle Fest, I imagine who knows what you're going to say, but
I don't know.
imagine there'll be more about also how we use different Oracle cards, how we might expand
Right.
practices,
Right.
variety through understanding how we are moving more to a digital world and all of this as well. And then we'll have Anna Frolic of Wonderland Publishing, and then we'll have Crystal Monera of Red Feather. So I think it's going to be a really lovely conversation, just seeing the perspective from all three of you
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
where things are headed, and maybe an inspirational view for how everyone can bring their own creative works out into the world, whatever
Yep.
way that makes sense for them.
Sounds good. That was fun.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. Likewise. So thank you for being here, and for everyone who wants to learn more from Nick and his wisdom and experience in this industry and in other industries, how it relates, which I think is also very fascinating. Then come on out to Oracle Fest and check out
Cool.
Deckible.com.
Thank you. Awesome. We'll see you next weekend.